Right, so today's day 3. I'll create a new Java project. Okay, and I'll call it day 3. Fine, and inside this project, of course, I will first add all the jar files of Selenium, right, so that it becomes Selenium enabled. Fine, so this jar file client combined jar as well as all the jars under the library folder should be added. Fine, and right. Now let us talk about constructors first. Okay, what are constructors, how they are helpful, and after that I'll talk about interfaces. Fine. I'll just create a new class over here. Fine. And I will call that class as mobile phone. Okay. Now, what are the features of the mobile phone? You can call that all those features like string, name of the mobile phone, in price of the phone. All right. There can be many such features. All right. And if I create a new class over here known as test phone, fine. And with the main function, right? And I write over here mobile, and I create the object of mobile phone class basically. Okay, mobile phone. Okay, so I can initialize it. I can write mobile phone dot name is say mobile A and phone dot price is 100. So similarly, I can create as many objects for this mobile phone class. I can create many objects of this mobile phone class, and every object I can give a different value. Right. Okay. But notice the problem over here. The problem over here is that whenever I create a new object, to initialize the new object, I have to write separate line. Okay. Right. Suppose there were just not two properties in this class. There had been, say, there were 5 or there were 10 properties in the mobile phone class. Then for every object, I would be writing 10 separate lines to initialize the property of every object. Okay, right. So this is something which actually concerns us. Fine. So to solve this problem, we introduce the concepts of constructor, the concept of constructors. Okay, right. So apart from this, constructors have other usages as well, but this is the prime usage. It helps you to initialize the object very easily without writing these lines. Okay, so what I'm going to do in mobile phone class, I'm going to create something known as constructor of this class. Okay, I'll call this constructor, I'll write over here public mobile phone. A constructor is something whose name is same as the class name. Okay, right. For constructor, there are few rules. One is name is same as class name. Second is there is no return type. Okay, when you make a function, you write public void or int so that it has a return type. In constructor, there is no return type. Okay, right. And the last thing, Constructor is called when you create the object of the class. It is called automatically when you create the object of the class. So constructor will be called when you create object of the class. Okay, right. So if I write over here system.out.println mobile phone constructor. Okay, and this is my test phone class. If I run this, three objects of mobile phone are created, right? And mobile phone constructor is printed three times. Okay, in this is called three times because three objects are created. If I create one more object, I did not give any reference or something. I just created the object, and if I run this, mobile phone constructor will be printed four times. So constructor is something which is called when you create the object of the class. Okay. Now, what you can do is you can create one more constructor and this constructor will take in the name and the price, and inside it you can write name equals to n. In this constructor, we are sending the name and the price of the mobile. Okay, so in your test phone class, when you create the object of the mobile phone, you will send the name of the mobile and the cost of the mobile, two factors inside the constructor. Okay, and constructor will automatically initialize both of them. Okay, name will go inside n, price will go inside p. Okay, and these two global variables, name and price, which are for the object, will be initialized. Okay, so you can create the object and initialize it on the fly. You don't have to write separate lines. I can print over here m4.name, m4.price. Okay, so when you run this, it prints name and price. I can again create one more object m5 and print name and price. Right. So you can just create the object and initialize it in one go. How constructors are used in Selenium, I cannot tell you about that right now because it is something which will come up later on. But you have to understand constructor is the first thing which is called when you create the object. Okay, right. If you have any questions, you can ask me. All right. Now coming back to day two, we had seen different drivers, Chrome driver, Firefox driver, Internet Explorer driver, Edge driver. Now every browser has a different driver class. Okay. Now does that mean that I will have to write separate commands for every browser to automate the application? What if I want to make a file? Hold on. What if I want to make a file? I'll call it dynamic browsers. I want that I can have one variable, say for example, string browser, and whatever value I give to this variable and whatever script I'm writing later on should be executed on that particular browser only. Okay, right. If I change this browser to say Mozilla, then the script which is executing should be executed on Mozilla. Right. Later on, we can read the value of this variable from an Excel file, property file, or a text file. Okay, so that just by changing in these files, okay, the value of the variable changes and I decide the browser name and the script will run on that particular browser. Okay, if I write over here that if browser is equal to Mozilla, then create the object of Firefox driver. Okay, else if, look, I'm starting from the very basics. At times people assume that fine, we have to take up a project or do a project. We will be doing a project, but these are very basic things which you should be knowing. Okay, then you create the object of Chrome driver. Okay, else if the browser is equal to I, then you create the object of Internet Explorer driver. Okay, right. So depending on the browser type, you're opening the browser. But what if you have to go to a website and click on a link? For example, you write firefox driver.get, go to the website http yahoo.com, and after going to yahoo.com, print the title of the yahoo.com. To get the title, the command is get title, firefox driver.get title. Okay, right. So if I run this code, this will run in Mozilla. Go to yahoo.com.
Spelling of Yahoo is incorrect.
Hello?
Spelling of Yahoo is incorrect.
Okay, sorry. So if I run this again, right? It reaches Yahoo, and in the output it prints the title. Okay. Now if I have to run it on Chrome, then on Chrome also I will have to write chrome driver.get http yahoo.com and print the title. Okay, right. And in I also you have to write I.get. But does this make sense? Although by changing the browser on the top, which is over here, if I change the browser and if I run the code, then you see that it runs on Chrome as well. But this doesn't make sense because I am repeating the code. If I have to click on a link in Firefox, I will have to write the code to click over here in Firefox. And then if I have to write the code in Chrome to click, I will have to write the code out here in Chrome to click on a link. Then on I will have to write the code to click on a link in I. So this doesn't make any sense. Okay, right. So how do you solve this problem? To solve this problem, we use the concept of interfaces. Okay, what is an interface? I'll tell you. You create a new class and I will name that class as say, or I'll create instead of a class, hold on, I'll create a new interface. I'll call it interface bank. So I'm coming over to Java and explaining you what interface is. Okay, now for example, I'll just give you a very good example like uh, this is the website, say Amazon. Okay, this is the interface of the website. It tells you that fine, uh, maybe these are the deals for today. You are getting this thing for 29,000 or 30,000 in rupees, right? But whether this will be for you or not, or whether this will be according to your choice or not, you really don't know. Or you're getting this sandal for 150 bucks INR, right? But whether this will fit you or not, or whether this is actually for you or not, you don't know. But through this interface, you can at least come to know that fine, you are getting these products. But whether the product will be good or not, you are not sure about it. Similarly, when you buy a book on a bookstore, just by the cover of the book, you get an idea that what the book is about. But whether in the end you will like it or not, you really don't know what's the inner content. So the cover of the book is like the interface for you, which tells you what the book is doing. Right, this website is like an interface which tells you that fine, this website has something to do with e-commerce and they are selling something online. Okay, so similarly, you have got interfaces in Java. Okay, in Java, you have got similar interfaces. All right, now how do you use the interfaces? This is the interface bank. Okay. What are the general features of the bank? Public void transfer. Or you can write over here credit. Okay, right. Public void debit. Public void say transfer. So these are few features of the bank interface. In the interface, we just declare the functions. Okay, we just declare the function, we just mention the function names inside the interface. And there are classes which implement the interface. Okay, for example, I have the class known as HSBC Bank. And you write over here public class HSBC Bank implements the bank interface. Okay, right. You move the mouse over it and add the unimplemented function. Okay, right. So this is the bank interface. And when you write a bank is this HSBC bank is implementing the bank interface, then hold on, I'll just show it again. You will actually get an error. If a class is implementing an interface, it is mandatory for the class to implement all the functions defined in the interface. In this interface, there are three functions which are defined. So when a class will implement this interface, it will have to implement all the three functions, and that is why you get an error, and it gives you the solution is that add the unimplemented methods. When you add them, you can write over here public void credit. Inside it, you can write HSBC credit and public void debit. And inside it, you can write HSBC debit and public void transfer. In this, you can write HSBC transfer. Okay, right. So you have got three functions over here, credit, debit, transfer in HSBC, which I have implemented. This @ sign means that this function is uh, actually coming up from the bank interface. Okay, this @ sign means that this function is coming up from the interface bank. Okay, right. Similarly, I can have what is the yeah. Similarly, I can have one more class known as say Citibank, and this will also implement the interface bank. You get an error, move the mouse over the error, add the unimplemented functions. Right. You can print Citibank credit Okay, we can have three functions like this in Citibank. So basically what I did, hold on, I created one interface. Okay, I simply created one interface. Oh, what is happening? I'm sorry. Yeah. And I created two classes which were implementing the interface. Now, why I did this? I could have directly created the classes as well. This was the bank interface. This was the HSBC bank class. This was the Citibank class. Okay, right. So bank is an interface, and these two classes, they are the implementing classes. All right. Now, why did I do this? I could have simply said that, fine, I will not make the bank interface. I'll just make these two classes. The reason is that tomorrow, if more banks they come into the picture, if you have more banks in the picture, if more banks establish, and all the banks will be implementing, hold on, four boxes, five boxes now.
I only see the yeah, only the HSBC Bank and the Citibank and the bank. That's all I see.
Hold on. Let me share my screen again with you guys. Just a minute. All right. I am. I've created the. I've shared my screen again. Is it fine with everyone?
No, not at
It's
all.
blank.
Blank actually.
I don't know what's happening.
You have like
So
five boxes now.
yeah. So what I was trying to explain is, I'm sorry, guys. Please keep your microphones on mute. What I was trying to explain you was, we had made these two classes. Okay, HSBC Bank and Citibank. They were extending the bank interface. But why do we do this? I could have never made the bank interface. I could have directly made these two classes. Okay, and I could have simply put the code in them. Okay, the reason I did this was because tomorrow, if more bank classes they come up, then all these classes will be implementing the bank interface. And since they will be implementing the bank interface, okay, they will be having the same set of functions which are there in the bank interface. So it gives, this thing gives a kind of, you can say, discipline to the whole system, that whatever functions are mentioned in the bank class or a bank interface will be present in all these classes. Okay, right. So bank is an interface, and all the implementing classes have the same set of functions which are there in the interface. The names are same. The implementation might be different. Citibank may implement the credit function in a different way, and HSBC Bank will have its own code inside the credit function, but the function name will be same. If a new person looks at your application and just looks at the interface, just by looking at the interface, he will be able to tell that fine, this is the interface and these are the set of functions inside the interface. Okay, right. If I go to the official website of Selenium, if I go here and if I go to the download section and if I open the documentation, right. So whatever is there in italics in this documentation is an interface. Whatever is there in italics is an interface. For example, there is something known as uh, mouse. Mouse is an interface, and these are the two implementing classes of this interface. Similarly, everybody must have heard about the word WebDriver. Okay, technically WebDriver is written in italics. It's an interface. Okay, and all are driver classes: Chrome driver, Edge, Firefox, Safari, Opera, Remote, Internet Explorer driver, Firefox driver. All these driver classes, they implement the interface WebDriver. Okay, and in this interface, there are some functions which help you to interact with the browser. For example, close. Close will close the browser. Find element will go and find an element in the browser. Get function will go take you to a URL. Get the title will actually get the title of the page. Okay, right. So that is why the function names in every driver class are same. Get and get title in every driver class. All the driver classes are different, but since all the driver classes they are implementing the WebDriver interface, the names of the functions in these classes will be the same. The names will not vary. Okay, the names of the functions in all the driver classes will be the same. So if you have to click on a link in Firefox and if you want to click on a link in Chrome, the command is going to remain the same. Okay, if you have to get the title, the command is going to remain the same. Get title. Okay, right. So you have got different browsers and every browser has a driver class and all the driver classes are implementing the WebDriver interface. So whatever functions are there in defined in the WebDriver interface will be implemented by these driver classes. And all the driver classes will have the same function names. Okay, but still, this doesn't solve our problem which I discussed with you. I told you that I'm writing a different piece of code for every browser, which I don't want. Right now, I know that for every driver, the function names will be the same, but still, this doesn't solve my problem. Okay, this problem will again be solved with the help of interfaces. So interfaces have two usages out here if I briefly define. The first usage is the function names. Because of interfaces, the function names in all the drivers they become same. The second usage is because of interfaces, you won't have to write the repeated code for every browser which I am writing over here like this. Okay. How do you achieve that? I will tell you in tomorrow's class because I need time for that. Okay, we will stop here for today. Even my internet is giving me issues.